Suzanne Schubert, dietitian with Horizon Health, and today we're gonna make lentil soup. This is a very nutritious, high fiber, and mostly plant-based recipe, plant-based protein recipe. So we're gonna start off by adding around 1/4 cup of olive oil to either a Dutch oven or you can use a pot. And then I'm gonna turn up the heat to about medium high. And we're gonna let the oil heat until it starts to shimmer. And then once your olive oil is shimmering, you're gonna add 1 medium onion chopped and about 2 carrots peeled and chopped. Or I used baby carrots, so you can use, it really, you know, is kind of up to your preference. If you wanna use a little bit more carrot, a little bit more onion, you can. All right, actually, it looks about perfect. Okay. And then we're gonna stir the carrots and onions until the onion starts to look translucent. So that'll take probably about 5 minutes. All right, I think we're pretty good. And then next up, we're gonna add 4 cloves of minced garlic. Now I went ahead and purchased some diced garlic. So 1 teaspoon of this diced garlic equals 1 garlic clove. So I'm gonna add 4 teaspoons right into the pot. All right, so there's our garlic. And then I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. And you don't have to be perfect with your measurements of this. Sometimes I'll add extra. All right, and then you're gonna add 2 teaspoons of ground curry powder. And then about 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme leaves. All right, and then you're gonna stir this around until it's fragrant, about another 30 seconds or so. Oh, yes. All right, and then you're gonna add a 28 ounce can of diced tomatoes drained. So you'll wanna run or pour the can of tomatoes through a strainer and then go ahead and add those to your pot. And stir those around a little bit. All right, and then you'll add about 1 cup of either brown or green lentils. So you will want to rinse these first just to remove any dirt and debris. And also rinsing removes the surface starch, so it gives them kind of a fluffier texture versus a more gummy texture, which is what you would kind of get if you didn't rinse them. I'm gonna go ahead and add those. Okay, and then we're gonna add 4 cups of our chicken bone broth. So again, this has 9 times more protein than just regular chicken broth. So I like to use bone broth versus chicken broth in pretty much all of my recipes. So it's a very easy substitution you can make to increase your protein intake. All right. All right. And then we'll give that a little stir. Okay. We're gonna add another couple cups or 2 cups of water. All right, and then we're going to increase the heat. So we're gonna try to bring this up to a boil. Remember, you do want a good amount of liquid in here because the lentils will absorb some of that liquid as they cook. All right, so bring that up to high. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and add a teaspoon of salt. And then we're gonna just add a generous amount of ground black pepper. So I'm just gonna use my pepper grinder here. And I like a lot of pepper. I just feel like you can never have too much pepper. So grind as much as you would like into the top. And then you can decide to use red pepper flakes or you can leave them out. This gives kind of a little bit of a kick to the taste. And so I typically just add in a small pinch. But if you like it a little spicier, you can add an extra pinch or two. All right, and then we are just waiting for the soup to reach a boil. Once it reaches a boil, we will reduce it to simmer, and we'll let it simmer for about 25 to 30 minutes. The soup's reached a boil, so now we're gonna turn it down to a simmer. And we're gonna let it simmer for between 25 and 30 minutes. All right. And then I am going to partially cover it. So I will put a lid on the top here and, but again, leaving a little bit of it uncovered to allow some of the steam to escape. All right, so after you have simmered your soup for about 25 to 30 minutes and the lentils are nice and cooked, we're going to transfer 2 cups of your soup to a blender. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 cups in here. I'm gonna use my liquid measuring cup. And then blenderizing some of the soup just gives your soup a really nice creamy texture. All right. All right, so we're gonna transfer this to the blender. I'll try to do this without making a big mess. All right. Right, and then you're finished when it's pretty much smooth in consistency. Okay, and then you're gonna add your blenderized, your pureed soup back to the pot. Probably using a spatula would be a good idea to kind of get as much as you can out of your blender. Okay. I'm gonna move back to my wooden spoon and just stir that in. So you can kind of see the consistency is a little bit creamier than it was before. All right. Then now we're going to chop our collard greens. All right, so the recipe calls for about a cup of chopped collard greens, but I like to add more. So this is probably more like on the lines of 2 cups of collard greens. So I just, I'm gonna go ahead and add all of it to the recipe. All right, and then we are going to let this cook until the collard greens have softened. All right, so I'm gonna stir those in. And this will take about 5 minutes. And the last step, so after these have softened, we are going to take the soup off the heat and we're gonna add about a tablespoon of lemon juice. And at that point, you can taste your recipe and you can decide whether you want a little bit more salt and pepper. You could add in a little bit more in terms of red pepper flakes at that point in time too, if you wanted a little spicier. So it's just to your taste preference. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the soup from the heat, and then you want to add about a tablespoon or so of lemon juice. So I'm going to go ahead and just squeeze half a lemon over the top. All right. All right, give it a little stir and you're done. All right, enjoy.